I really don't like those Facebook highlights that show you memories. There's something inside of me that it's really hard for me to look back at difficult seasons. It's hard for me to talk about difficult seasons. It's hard to reflect on them. At the end of the year, sometimes I'm just ready to just move forward. There's this trend going around Instagram, which kind of prompted my thoughts on this area. And if you follow me on Instagram, my Christabel Braden page, you might have seen I made a reel about this. There's an Instagram reel and TikTok trend going around that takes the months of the year, and people have been posting photos from each month, highlights, little video clips, whatever, January, February, March, and they go through the whole year. And the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that's cool. That's creative, you know. Second time I saw it, I kind of thought, oh, okay, there's another one. And then I kept seeing it and kept seeing it and kept seeing it. And then it started to annoy me because I started to feel inadequate. I don't have that. 2021 is not a year that I have highlights from. I don't know if I can think of that on any year. And if I did just share the highlights from the year, I don't know what it would look like. You know, people share things of travel and fun, and, you know, with the pandemic, it's a whole, you know, different situation. But I just want to encourage you not to compare yourself to the highlights you see from other people. And I also want to encourage you to consider looking back with a different mindset. If all you did this year was work on your recovery and work on your health, that's worth celebrating. If all you did this year was learn more about your injury, try to get answers, move forward. If this year you found one new strategy that has helped you on your brain injury journey, maybe it's a nutritional change. I know going gluten-free helped a lot of things for me. Maybe it's a habit, deep breathing or chair yoga for TBI. Maybe it's a new hobby of reading or painting or gardening, cooking. Cooking's hard with the brain injury. Maybe that wasn't the right example. It's very hard to follow multi-step directions, at least for me. But what I'm trying to say is working on yourself and working on your health, that's an accomplishment in itself. You do not have to have picture perfect highlights of your year in order to have had a valuable year of growth. You are working on your recovery. You are working on your health. You are working on your brain. And that is worth celebrating. Let's look at how far we've come. It's so easy to get discouraged when you feel like you aren't improving fast enough. I shared some of my background and my story because I was viewing my brain injury recovery as a forward thing. So like, oh, I have made this accomplishment. I have done this and I'm getting better every day. But then I kept getting more brain injuries. And when I started college, I was doing better in my recovery than I was when I finished college because I had at least 6 concussions in those 4 years. When I graduated college, which I'm so grateful that I graduated, I kind of barely made it through, but I was doing worse. I had to get constant extensions from my professors. Like every single day I was in pain. I had another concussion like April, right before graduation. I actually had to get an extension through the summer. So I didn't even get my full degree at graduation time. I went to a very small school and the professors were willing to work with me with my brain injury. And my advisor, I know he meant well, but he commented about how my freshman year, I showed so much promise and I was doing so well. But my senior year, he really saw me struggling and his heart went out to me. And so he was really accommodating, but I started to define myself by this year passed and I'm doing worse than I was last year. Have you ever felt that way? It's the end of the year, and the end of the year last year, I was doing better than I am now. That's hard. Or it's the end of the year, and I thought I would have been doing better by now. I thought that I would be farther in my recovery by now, and I'm not. That is discouraging in itself, too. We can get so discouraged by comparing ourselves to this hypothetical recovery timeline in our own mind. We can also get discouraged by comparing ourselves to the old you. It is hard, and it's a grieving process. When you have a brain injury, or if you're a caregiver listening to this and you miss the person that was before the brain injury, I just want to tell you that's okay. It's okay to miss the old life. I highly recommend seeing a psychologist, a therapist, a neuropsychologist to talk about that grieving, because it is a grief process. Your life has changed completely. And it's like this ambiguous loss that is so hard to explain, because if you're a family member, the person's still here, but they're also not who they were. If it's you, you are still here, your life is still here, but it's like you've lost so much that it is heartbreaking sometimes. When we dwell on that, we end up looking at how far we've come with a cynical view, thinking, yeah, I've come farther since my brain injury, but I'm not who I was. And so we just keep putting ourselves down. It's also easy to get discouraged when you're just every day dealing with symptoms and just trying to get by. When you have headaches and fatigue and vestibular symptoms, you have emotional things, or, just feeling off, brain fog. I can't even describe that feeling of feeling off, but I think you know what I mean. When you just don't feel like yourself. It's hard. It is hard. And at this time of year, I think it can be harder because social media is constantly bombarding us with that, but also New Year's resolutions. I don't like to set goals because I don't feel like I can always do them. It's hard to set a goal or have a dream with a brain injury because you have no idea how you're going to do and where you're going to do it. Now, there is something to be said for setting goals and working on it a little bit at a time, one step at a time. But like New Year's resolutions, I just want to release you from the pressure. It's okay. You do not need to set a New Year's resolution this year. A word of the year to focus on. You do not need to do it. Some people find it helps them, but if it's stressing you out and if you are just feeling overwhelmed, give yourself permission to just be. You're enough. Who you are is enough. You can just be you. That's enough. Every single day, you get out of bed, you wake up, you keep going, and you keep fighting. And that is something to be celebrated. You do not have to have highlights from your year. You do not have to have pictures to post on social media. You do not have to have tangible, check-offable goals that you've met or that you're trying to meet. You are a person with a soul, with dreams, with a life, with so much inside of you. You have value. And here at the end of the year, instead of putting pressure on yourself to try and look at the highlights, I just want to encourage you to think about how far you've fought. You're a warrior. It's okay to feel all those complicated emotions and to remember the hard times, but you do not have to be defined by them. You are more than the sum of your year. You are more than your struggles. I wrote a poem last year for New Year's, and I want to read it to you now, and I hope that it encourages you in some way. It goes like this. You are not defined by the sum of the last year. You are who you choose to be today. You are not defined by the people who have hurt you. You have so much to offer the world. You are not defined by mistakes or failures. You are covered in grace. You are not defined by anxiety or depression. You are a beloved child of God. You are not defined by the tears that you've cried. You have been growing through it all. Every day is a new chance to start again. You have come farther than you realize. I used to think that my re-injuries and my setbacks brought me backwards. Over time, I've learned that instead of looking at my re-injuries and setbacks as steps backwards, I've just looked at them as a different type of step forward. Yes, I might have had more symptom flare-ups. Yes, I might be doing medically worse than I was last year. Yes, I might have a new concussion that is causing more problems, or I might be having more symptoms, or I might not be managing them quite as well. However, I have grown. I have more knowledge. I have more tools. I have more strategies. I'm older and wiser, maybe wiser. You might look at yourself and think that you don't feel like you're doing any better than you were, but I just kind of want to stop defining ourselves by the terms of better or worse, and let's just think about it as different and grown. You know, you are constantly growing. You're constantly moving forward, whether you're aware of it or not. And your brain injury does not define who you are. You are more than your brain injury. You are more than your symptoms. You are more than your doctor's visits and your prescriptions. You have value. I truly believe that God has a plan for your life, that He is writing your story, that if you survived, that you are here for a reason. If you're a caregiver or a family member, your survivor is still here for a reason, and there's something that God's doing in your life through this circumstance and through this story. The Word of God says He's working all things for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. He's a good God, and He loves us, and He's working in ways that we don't always understand, in ways that we don't always see. But for me, faith has helped me to get through more things than anything else has. So as you reflect on your year, take some time to journal or pray and reflect and think about, how have I grown? What is something that I've learned? What can I say about myself that maybe I couldn't say about myself last year? You know, don't think about it as far as highlights or as far as measurable growth, but there are other things that you can celebrate. There are other things that you can look at. And then looking in the new year, like I said, it's hard to set goals with a brain injury, but maybe try to set a goal that isn't something that brings you a lot of pressure to feel like you have to do. Something like, this year I'm going to be kind to myself and I'm going to work on it. Or this year I'm going to work on my self-care. Or this was my goal last year. This year I'm going to work on my brain health. I think I'm going to carry that goal through, because certain things about working on my brain health means just paying more attention to the food that goes in my body and paying more attention to my habits and continuing to work on those things. So I hope this has been some sort of encouragement for you. And I would love to stay connected. We are having our next Zoom meeting for Hope After Head Injury on January 20th. So we meet once a month. You can sign up at hopeafterheadinjury.com/community. Would love for you to join us. If you're interested, I also have a group called Brain Injury Bible Study that meets every so often. Been doing different series and working on some material for that. So I would love to get to know you better. You can join our Facebook support group if you search Hope After Head Injury support group on there. Of course, stay connected with me on Instagram. I have 2 pages, Hope After Head Injury and my page, Christabel Braden. So yeah, I thank you for listening if you've made it this far through the episode. And please let me know, what are some goals that you have for yourself this year? And share it with a friend, with a family member. Share it with our Hope After Head Injury support group, because you are not alone and you have value. Wishing you and your family a wonderful new year. And I will see you next week here on Hope Survives podcast. Bye, everyone. Through your darkest night, hope survives.